Okay, hi, I'm Lou Covey with Cyber Protection Magazine, and I'm back with Matt Donato from Cyber SN, and we're going to talk about the candidate experience. And, the first thing that comes to my mind about what you shouldn't do when you're out there looking for candidates is to ghost people. I mean, that's something that I have experienced throughout my long years as an employee, and then even as a an employer, where I made a specific effort to make sure that every candidate that we interviewed got a call back, or even somebody who comes in and says, I'm looking for a job, and I will sit down with them and talk to them about what it is they're looking for, even if we don't have one for them, to see what I can help them with. And that's specifically out of my experience about how I was treated when I was looking for a job. So let's talk a bit about how you treat these people that are coming in.
Yeah, candidates, the experience is it's all about look, feel, and communication and clarity. You know, those four things are important. As you start to apply for a role or you get contacted about an opportunity, candidates are in the driver's seat right now in this hiring economy. So people are getting inundated with messages on LinkedIn, or they're getting referrals, or they're getting contacted by recruiting firms, or even sometimes by talent acquisition, internal recruiting teams by companies. So constantly lots of engagement and opportunities are being presented. And the more specialized and more in demand your skill set, the higher the volume of the outreach is going to be to you. So you can basically pick from the litter if you're good at what you do. And so when that happens, you're looking for things to lean into and things to stay away from. And oftentimes organizations that have a very clear message in terms of who they are, what they offer, and why it's compelling to work there, that's the start of the journey. And so if I'm going to engage in that conversation as a candidate, that's where the conversation starts. And so as that life cycle, if you will, as that journey unfolds, the experience, the look, the feel has to feel like this is a part of the family. I'm going to feel like I'm adding value, or I'm going to be part of the team. And so what does that look like? Well, behaviorally speaking, you want the communication to be very welcoming. You want it to be personable, but you also want it to be very business focused as well. And it's different strokes for different folks, as they say. But in that experience, that conversation, you're not just interviewing for a job, you're interviewing for a family or an organization that you feel like you're going to be part of the culture. So as that process unfolds, you want each step in the process, the more informed you are, the tighter the follow-up, the more interested you're likely going to be. Now, that's not an exact science, Lou, but the stickier you are, if you will, as an employer courting some of these candidates, the stickier you are, the more communication you have, the more follow-up, the more timely the follow-up, and the faster you move people through the process, the higher the impact you're going to have and the higher the probability of hiring that professional you'll be. The opposite of that is everything I just said on the opposite side of the spectrum: lack of follow-up, lack of interest and engagement, poor communication, not really understanding what you're hiring for. So if I'm a candidate and I'm interviewing with you, and you and your counterpart have two different messages about what you need, what's the chances I'm going to be interested in that? Probably not very high. But let's just say I'm willing to give you a second shot. So we have a second conversation, and in that conversation, I'm not really moving the ball. I'm not really advancing the conversation. And moreover, there's really poor follow-up or communication. It's not really a presentation that's being made, if you will. I'm probably not going to be interested in moving forward because I likely have other options to pick from. So those are just a few examples of where we see a very common thread, a high common thread right now in this hiring economy, to where candidates are just not really experiencing a very warm interview process. And that experience is just not positive.
Do you help companies do that? I mean, do you take a look at what they go through and say, gee, you guys are like a wet fish? Or,
Yeah, it depends on the, yes, absolutely we do. I mean, from the start of the relationship with the clients that we work with, we really want to understand everything about not only as much as we can about their organization, their environment, but more importantly, sometimes their culture. And then part of that culture is, let's talk about the interview process. Let's talk about that journey itself. Okay, great. You hire somebody. And then let's talk about the next phase. What does that onboarding process look like? How are you embracing them into your environment, and are you embedding them into the social fabric of the business? Is there a program in place for that? And so there's all these different things. So in our discovery, if you will, with our clients, especially new ones, we're really trying to unpack as much as we can up front so we can advise them on some tips and tricks or new methods or new techniques. And sometimes we have to have that tough conversation, not quite the dead fish or the wet fish, whatever you called it. But sometimes we have to be pretty honest and very sometimes blunt.
Okay. So, is there any difference in how you treat people you're trying to hire on permanently or hiring contractors? Because a lot of companies, they go with the contract because they think they're saving money, and in some cases they are.
Yeah, it depends on OpEx, CapEx. I get the need for the contingent workforce. I really do. There's a huge market and economy for that. And they serve a very value add purpose for most organizations that need them. But you're right, there is an experience difference in some organizations, and not all. Some organizations don't treat contractors the same as they're a full-time employee. You're here for a limited amount of time, so I want to treat you like you're here for a limited amount of time, or you're a hired gun, if you will. You're here for a one linear process or one linear thing to accomplish, and after that, thanks for your help, and we'll send you packing. Contract to hire is very common as well, and that's where the aforementioned example could really get you in trouble, because if they don't have a really good experience as a contractor, why am I going to want to work there as a full-time employee? Now, it all depends on the level and the skill set that you have, but by and large, you're right. There's a different experience. We at CyberSN don't treat that any differently, because at the end of the day, you're looking for human capital to impact your business. So it behooves us to treat you all the exact same, and we will, because we treat everybody the same. But organizations oftentimes don't really embrace or welcome in the contractors like they do the full-time employees, just because they're there for a short amount of time.
Great. Okay, well, Matt, this has been highly informative. We are going to be talking to some startup CEOs that are having these kind of problems, and we'll be talking to them over on our Crucial Tech podcast. But this is a crucial piece of technology that we need to be looking at, the human technology that you hire. And we have to change how we think of what these people are and what they can do and how we can convince them to join us. So, Matt, thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the internet.